University of Chicago Public Policy Podcasts.
Hey, thank you for your service, listeners. It's Thomas Krasnation.
And Nick Pareso.
We're out here at the University of Chicago, standing outside the main library, trying to go up to people, get their thoughts on the military and civil military relations.
But mainly, I'm more concerned because it's rainy and cold out and sub 40 degrees. So we're trying to do this as fast as possible.
And it's also the middle of midterms.
Which doesn't help.
Hello.
We're producing a podcast. We're wondering if you have 3 minutes for an informal survey.
On what aspect?
On the U.S. military.
Sure.
Yeah? Okay. How much confidence would you say you have in the military? None at all, not too much, fair amount, or a great deal?
U.S. military?
U.S. military.
In what aspect?
Just your trust in them as an institution.
Well, I think that them currently defending the U.S. mainland and also the U.S. foreign territories are capable.
Okay. Do you know anybody in the U.S. military?
No.
Okay. What kind of people do you think join the military?
Well, first of all, I know that because of the GI Bill, the military does provide a way for those retired soldiers to join the university or gain better education.
Yeah, but definitely you think economic opportunity, education
yes,
is
one way is economic and also education opportunities, and another is perhaps just per interest and such. Yeah.
Okay. Could you describe the difference between an officer and an enlisted person in the military? Do you know that?
No, I think maybe kind of what you call see the ranks on their shoulders and such, for example. Yeah.
Okay. Which branch of government is responsible for setting military policy?
I guess executive, perhaps.
Okay.
I know that historically is in 1946 Truman banned the segregation in military. Maybe the executive. Yeah.
Okay. And where does your knowledge about the military come from?
Well, I'm just generally interested in war and military and such, and history and such. So. Yeah, and also global politics. I mean, yeah.
So news and academic research,
yes,
you'd say?
Yeah.
Okay. And last question. I have here a sheet of paper with the 5 branches of the military on it. If you could pick one for me and kind of describe its purposes and responsibilities.
Okay. Sure. So, let me guess. I don't know. I mean, I got some brief knowledge of a bit of everything, I guess.
Okay.
So, for example, Navy is mostly ensuring the U.S. interest in in foreign bases and other continents and such, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you
really
so much.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah. What is this for?
So we host a podcast on campus. Okay. It's about the relationship between the military and American civilian society, and trying to inform students more about the connection between the two.
No.
Thanks so
much.
much.
Podcast called?
Thank you for your service.
Under orders from the Secretary of Defense, women can now try out for all combat jobs in all services.
We turn now to what some military officials call an enduring and pressing emergency, the rise in veteran suicides.
But more than a dozen current and former cadets have told CBS News they reported their sexual assaults to the Air Force Academy, only to then experience retaliation.
Don't ask, don't tell is history, but there's still plenty to talk about.
Welcome back to Thank You for Your Service, a hard look at American civil military affairs from the University of Chicago Public Policy Podcasts. This is Season 2. I'm Nick Pareso.
And I'm Thomas Krasnation. We're really excited to be back, producing and releasing new episodes here at the Harris School of Public Policy. Nick and I have just started the second year of our master's degree program here at Harris, and we have about 5 months left before heading back to the Navy full-time. Nick, why don't you tell our listeners where you're headed after this?
Right, so once I wrap up here in March, I'll be heading to a destroyer. Right now it's stationed out of Mayport, Florida. And what's next for you, Thomas?
After this, in March, I will be heading to nuclear power school in Charleston. And if I make it through that, then I'll be going to a submarine somewhere in the world.
Cool. So before we get any further, we should note that for this episode and for the rest of the season, even though we're both in the Navy, the Thank You for Your Service podcast is just part of our academic pursuits here in grad school and does not necessarily reflect the official positions of the Department of Defense or the U.S. government.
So with Season 1 of this podcast, we were trying to learn about some of the basics of civil-military relations. We talked with a wide range of guests about concepts like civilian control of the military, the politicization of the military, and military decision-making in the highest levels of government. That's why we tried to bring in guests who have served at those high levels, retired 4-stars like Admiral Mullen and General McChrystal, and former civilian public servants like Senator McCaskill, Michelle Flournoy, and David Axelrod. Ultimately, we tried to close the civil-military divide by showing how important it is for civilians, especially future policymakers like our classmates here at the Harris School, to be invested in one of the most central institutions of American society, their military.
With Season 2, we're still focused on addressing that civil-military gap, but we're taking a different approach. We want to really dig into the specific ways that the military interacts with American society. We're going to talk about social issues and social change in the U.S. and how that relates to the armed services. Things like race, gender, and LGBT issues. We're going to talk about recruitment, who joins the military and why. We're going to talk about some of the military-related topics we often see covered in the news. What can be done to address sexual assault in the military, or the mental health crisis among service members and veterans. And we'll talk about the transition from military to civilian life. How do veterans add value to their communities once they leave the armed services? Some of these are issues people have a knee-jerk reaction to, or hold deeply ingrained stereotypes about. We're hoping to provide more context to these discussions so they get the focused, rigorous, and analytic examination they deserve.
Another thing we'd like to note, while most of our episodes in Season 1 were centered on interviews with policymakers, we're going to be trying some new things in these upcoming episodes.
How much confidence would you say you have in the U.S. military? Not at all, not too much, fair amount, great deal.
Confidence to do what?
Just confidence in general, like your confidence in the military.
Like your trust in them as an institution.
I'm confident that they can defend the United States.
Okay.
I'd say I have a lot of confidence in the U.S. military.
We began this episode walking around on the University of Chicago campus, talking to students to get their impression of the armed forces. We were interested in finding out what they know and what some of their opinions are about the U.S. military. How much confidence would you say you have in the U.S. military? None at all, not too much, fair amount, great deal.
I guess I say not too much.
Why do you say that?
Because I'm suspicious of the military as like a general concept. Like, why have one?
Oh, I think it's okay.
Okay, why do you say that?
It's the strongest army standing on the earth.
Yeah.
And power, might makes right.
Great deal.
Why do you say that?
Because the U.S. government spends a ton of money on them.
Okay.
A fair amount.
Why do you say that?
I feel like we spend a lot of money on our military, and so I would hope that, I don't know, that it would be good.
That money's put to good use?
Yeah. Although I guess, like, realistically speaking, I know that a lot of that money is actually not put to good use, but I do think we spend a lot on our military.
Fair amount.
Why do you say that?
A lot of money is going towards the military.
Yeah, funding.
Yeah, so you feel like the money is at least being put to good use? Or that at least there's a lot of money to work with?
Yeah,
there's a lot of money to work with.
Okay. Do you know anybody in the military?
Yes. Well, I know a few people from high school who are, like, training to be in the military. That, like, counts.
What branch are they in? Do you know?
No idea.
Okay. Do you know anybody in the military?
Yes, apparently a lot. Because I went to U.S. high school, so.
Okay.
So some of my friends' parents are in the U.S. military.
What do they do? Do you know?
Some of them are doctors for the Marines, and some of them are, like, I don't know, like just like lieutenants.
Not currently in the military,
okay.
no.
Any veterans?
My granddad is a U.S. military veteran.
What did he do?
He was an infantryman in World War II.
Yes, my friend's dad.
Okay, what did he do?
He's a general, I think. General Brigadier Johnson. Yeah, our friend's dad from high school.
What branch? Do you know?
No, I just know he was stationed in Afghanistan.
Okay.
I do, yes.
Okay, and what did they do?
What do you mean?
Like what branch they're in, what their job entails, if you know
so that. I know a couple of people who go to West Point who are not currently in the military, but I believe that they will be going into the Army, but those are the only people who I know who are, like, military people.
Okay, and you knew them from high school?
Yes.
Okay, do you know why they decided to go to West Point?
I think that, okay, honestly, I think one of them didn't really want to. Her parents kind of wanted her to. But the other one, I think is, like, she's very, like, patriotic, and also I think West Point offers, like, a really good deal in a sense, because you get like basically a free education that's also really good. So yeah.
What kinds of people in general do you think join the military?
Sometimes people with pressure to a lot of one friend of mine definitely joined because he needed money, he didn't know what to do after high school, so he joined in the hopes to eventually go to college and have that paid for.
I think it also attracts a lot of young men who are eager for responsibility in life, and they're seeking structure, and they want to, in a way, turn things around when they're around 20 years old. So they go to the military to seek that structure and that responsibility, and it really seems to help some guys out.
What kind of people do you think join the military?
Just normal people, to be honest. I think for some people in my high school, it was like if college wasn't the thing you were going to do next and you didn't have a specific career idea, it was it's sort of like another space to enter into as you finish one phase of your life.
Could be service, could be money, could be to make a difference in the country.
What kind of people do you think join the military?
Some aspired, some brainwashed, some want to protect their countries, some believed what they are fighting for, and some just need the money to go to college.
Reason for joining could be, one of them could be you don't have many other options. One of them could be patriotism. Those are probably the two main ones, I'd say.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Probably people who are very patriotic.
Okay.
And yeah.
Do you think patriotism is that main reason for joining, or do you know of any other reasons people might join?
I would assume that would have to be one of the reasons, because you are putting your life on the line for America. Also, I guess I do know that the military sometimes recruits lower income people, because it is sometimes a better option than whatever they might otherwise have.
People who love the country.
Okay.
Yeah, people who just want to serve.
Do you know any other reasons people might want to join the military?
To pay for college. I don't know.
That too.
Educational opportunity.
Educational, yeah. ROTC programs and stuff.
Okay. Does the military serve the president or the Constitution?
I'd say the Constitution.
Does the military serve the president or the Constitution?
I think it should serve the Constitution.
Okay. You said should serve. Do you think it's different from what the reality is?
Yeah, I think sometimes ultimately they're getting their orders from people like the president, so so sometimes they might not be truly serving the Constitution.
Well, technically it's the president, I think, because he's the commander-in-chief, but it would depend on what the person believes, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Wait, isn't the president the general?
Yeah, isn't he the one, who pushes the button? Yeah. But I don't know.
The commander-in-chief or something.
Yeah.
Should serve the Constitution, also serves the president.
They should uphold the Constitution, I think, but I think they serve the president because he's the commander-in-chief.
Okay. What branch of government is responsible for setting military policy?
That's a good question.
Executive, right?
I mean,
I don't know.
I would think it's multifaceted.
Okay. And what branch of government is responsible for setting military policy?
Like what?
Like deciding where we're going to deploy troops and how are they going to be used.
Doesn't the president choose and then the Congress has to confirm it or something? I think. Okay. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm gonna go with, I want to say judiciary, but I feel like it's executive.
Okay.
I should know this from U.S. history.
Executive? I don't know.
Yeah,
executive. With the president.
Or legislative. Or
judicial.
All three.
What do you mean by military policy? The Department of Defense.
Okay.
I'm not too familiar with U.S. government stuff.
Okay. I have here a sheet of paper with the 5 branches of the military on it. If you could pick one for me and kind of describe its purposes and responsibilities.
The Navy is responsible for sea warfare, warfare in water.
Yeah, and then Army's for land.
Yeah.
I believe.
And if you could maybe pick one of these and describe what you think they do.
Oh, this was the question, because I always think what is the difference between the Navy, the Marines, and the Coast Guard? Aren't those all at sea? Because I know there's some people at sea and there's some people at land. Air Force obviously flies planes.
Okay.
Yeah, they probably drop bombs on people, would be a guess.
Yeah.